I'm Tara Merchner. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, next phase, new developments in the war in the Holy Land as Israel hints at more military action in Gaza, how the White House is responding. The Knights of Columbus convention kicks off in the nation's capital. We've got the highlights. Taking the lead, a new poll shows Pope Leo on top, what he's leading everyone else in and why. Plus, snowfall in Rome. Why the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome is something the entire church should celebrate. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
And thank you for being with us on the feast of the dedication of the Basilica of St. Mary Major, our top story tonight. As the Trump administration tries to end the fighting in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is hinting at wider military action in the devastated Strip. At the same time, former Israeli army and intelligence chiefs call an end to the conflict that has left tens of thousands of Palestinians dead and many hungry. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tara, good evening to you. Well, peace between Israel and Hamas certainly remains elusive tonight. And also tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly considering taking full control of Gaza.
Tammy Bruce, the U.S. State Department spokeswoman, addresses the ongoing war in Gaza.
Well, of course, you know what we're focused on still, getting the hostages out after what we saw with videos over the last couple of days. It is a reminder to people about the evil that has been running this terror operation in Gaza via, of course, through Hamas.
For Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his objectives include defeating Hamas, releasing all 50 remaining hostages, and ensuring Hamas never again threatens Israel. He convened his security cabinet to direct the military on the war's next stage. However, the U.S. State Department declined to go into detail on Israel's reported new plans.
Regarding that reporting, again, reporting is one thing, real plans might be another. We are not in the business of interpreting statements from foreign governments when and if they're made.
Truck drivers, meanwhile, delivering aid in Gaza, say their work has become increasingly dangerous. Since Israel ended a ceasefire with Hamas in March, the situation has worsened. Health officials report new deaths of hungry people seeking food. Families of the hostages remaining in Gaza fear that hunger endangers them too, and they blame Hamas. President Trump on Sunday told reporters he wants the people of Gaza fed.
We don't want people going hungry, and we don't want people to starve.
Meanwhile, the leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah warned today that if Israel intensifies its military operations against his group, the Iran-backed armed faction will resume firing missiles towards Israel.
And tonight, President Donald Trump has yet to weigh in on any potential Israeli plans to take full control of Gaza. And spokeswoman Tammy Bruce at the State Department also said today the terror group Hamas is now on their heels. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Owen, thank you. The House Oversight Committee took a major step today to increase transparency related to information about the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Republican-led panel sent 10 subpoenas to high-level officials calling for depositions between August and mid-October. They want to know more about the criminal investigations into Epstein and his former associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. One of the most prominent figures is former President Bill Clinton. He had a documented association with Epstein, which publicly surfaced as part of civil lawsuits. The committee also sent a subpoena to the Justice Department calling for the release of any Epstein files in its possession with the names of the victims redacted. Reports say Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered federal prosecutors to begin a grand jury investigation into the origins of the 2016 Trump-Russia probe. Bondi alleges members of the Obama administration made up intelligence about election interference by Russia during that election. The decision comes after a referral from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Last month, the DNI revealed documents she alleges undermine the Obama administration's conclusion that Russia tried to help Trump beat Hillary Clinton. Well, President Trump claims he is the victim of discrimination. In an interview, the president said after his first term, both J.P. Morgan and Bank of America refused to accept more than $1 billion in deposits from the Trump Organization, and that forced him to spread funds across smaller banks. Trump claims the administration of former President Joe Biden had encouraged regulators to, quote, destroy him. Neither bank has addressed the president's specific claim. Meanwhile, according to the Wall Street Journal, the White House is drafting an executive order that would penalize banks for dropping customers for political reasons. President Trump is standing by his unsubstantiated claim that the Bureau of Labor Statistics jobs numbers have been rigged against him. He insisted the data was manipulated to make him look bad. He pointed to revisions made before the 2024 election as evidence.
It is the government, after all. Antiquated, no doubt, and certainly suboptimal, but rigged? Where do you get the notion that it's rigged, or do you have any evidence there?
It is antiquated, but it's also very political. Days before the election, they put out numbers that it was like the country was on fire, it was doing so well. And then they did a revision about 2 weeks later, and the revision was down by almost 900,000 jobs. You remember that?
The president has faced criticism following his firing of the leading U.S. labor market statistician last week after a disappointing jobs report. Well, tensions are growing in Texas. U.S. Senator John Cornyn is calling on the FBI to arrest Democratic lawmakers who left the state. State lawmakers fled Texas to prevent a vote on a plan to redraw the congressional districting map, which would make 5 districts now represented by Democrats. The Republican-led House ordered state troopers to arrest them, but they lack the jurisdiction. The FBI has not said whether its agents will get involved. And now to U.S. House lawmakers. Republican leaders advised their members to avoid participating in town halls during the August recess. But Nebraska Congressman Mike Flood wanted to talk about his support for President Trump's budget law.
We've had this conversation before. As I recall, and we shared this in Columbus.
Audience members repeatedly chanted, "Tax the rich," as Flood attempted to defend the president's sweeping tax and spending cuts. Constituents voiced their anger over the cuts to Medicaid benefits. Many Republicans are worried the backlash to the law may cost them their seats next year. This morning in Tennessee, an inmate on death row was executed despite concerns that his medical device may have caused him more pain. Byron Black had an implanted defibrillator that was not deactivated before his lethal injection. There was concern that the device would shock his heart when the chemicals took effect. Black was convicted in the 1988 shooting deaths of his girlfriend and her 2 daughters. In July, a judge sided with Black's attorney, saying the device should be turned off. But last week, the state Supreme Court overturned that decision. The case has brought up a number of ethical issues, and for that, we turn to Karina Lane, professor of law at the University of Richmond School of Law and author of the book Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection. Karina, thanks so much for being here. Regarding the case of Byron Black, a man with, as we said, with a medical device that could cause the lethal injection to be more painful, is this a unique case?
It's absolutely unique. I've been studying lethal injection deeply for 7 years. I've never seen anything like it.
You also say that lethal injection is about disowning death. Can you explain?
Yeah, sure. I started writing this book. I'm a death penalty scholar. I've been writing about the death penalty for 18 years. And I started with a question of, why are states so bad at this? We know how to put down our beloved pets. But that question changed over the years. It was a 7-year investigative research project. And the question became, why are states sticking with this? They can't get the medical professionals. They can't get the drugs. They can't get access to the veins. These people have notoriously bad veins. They're breaking state and federal laws. They're asking medical professionals to violate their professional ethics, and it's not even humane. So, why are they doing this? And what I came up with was Lethal injection just really does one thing well, only one thing, and that is it hides the violence of state killing. It allows us to tell ourselves that the person is just falling into forever sleep when that is very far from the truth.
As a former prosecutor, you did support the death penalty. Conceptually, how has that changed for you?
Such a great question. You know, as a prosecutor, I didn't know much about the death penalty. I thought about it in terms of dessert, and I think that's where many Americans are. But I think that death penalty support comes with a number of assumptions, and it turns out that very few of those assumptions are actually true. One of the things that I did learn from studying executions in depth for 7 years was really about who these people are at the end. Not who they are at the time of their trial, not who they are at the time of their offense. Who are they 15, 20, 25 years, 30? We actually put to death someone who was on death row for 49 years this summer. Who are those people at the end? And as a person of faith and someone who believes conceptually in redemption on death row, I'm here to tell you there's redemption on death row. And so it really complicates things to see that the person that we're executing a couple decades later is actually not the same person that committed that crime. And that has implications not only for the retributive purpose of punishment, but also for the victim's family members, for the prison guards who are asked to do this task. I mean, somebody actually has to do the killing for the death penalty, and so it's something that even I, as a death penalty scholar, didn't think much about until this project.
All right, Karina, thanks for joining us and sharing your perspective. Thank you so much. All right, we have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. A new poll says Pope Leo is #1. We'll show you just how popular the Holy Father is. And the Knights of Columbus are in Washington, D.C. for their national convention. We speak to one of the attendees. Russia says it will no longer honor a self-imposed ban on intermediate-range missiles. The warning possibly sets the stage for a new arms race. The Kremlin says it revoked its ban amid efforts by the U.S. and NATO to develop their own intermediate-range weapons. Russia also says its new intermediate-range missile can reach anywhere in Europe and carry both conventional and nuclear warheads. The move follows President Trump's order to reposition 2 U.S. nuclear submarines in response to what he called highly provocative Russian rhetoric. Today, the U.S. Coast Guard released the finding of its investigation into the implosion of a submersible used to explore the wreckage of the Titanic. All 5 people aboard were killed when Titan imploded in June of 2023. The Coast Guard says the disaster was the result of preventable safety failures and deliberate efforts to avoid oversight. The Titan was owned by Ocean Gate, whose CEO Stockton Rush died in the disaster. Well, this week marks 80 years since the U.S. atomic bombing of the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II in 1945. It is estimated between 150 and 246,000 people died as a result. Amid remembrances planned around the world, Pope Leo is offering prayers and a call for peace. In a message to the Bishop of Hiroshima, the Holy Father said in part, quote, "It is thus my prayer that this solemn anniversary will serve as a call to the international community to renew its commitment to pursuing lasting peace for our whole human family, a peace that is unarmed and disarming." A new poll examined the favorability ratings of more than a dozen newsmakers from around the world, and the most popular is Pope Leo. The findings are from the Gallup Social Series. It says 57% of respondents have a favorable viewpoint of Pope Leo, with only 11% viewing him as unfavorable. The next highest newsmakers were Ukraine leader Volodymyr Zelensky at 52%, followed by Bernie Sanders at 49%. The high numbers for Pope Leo are on par with his predecessors at the start of their pontificate. In 2013, Pope Francis was viewed favorably by 58% of respondents, with an unfavorable rating of 10%. Pope Benedict in 2005 had a 55% favorable rating and 12% unfavorable. Today is the start of the 143rd Supreme Convention of the Knights of Columbus. The three-day event right here in the nation's capital began with a mass and procession. Hundreds of Knights attended the Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. There are several other events, including the state dinner tonight at the Washington Hilton Hotel. The Knights began back in 1882. It now has around 2.1 million members, are devoted to charitable work around the world. Attendees also received a message from Pope Leo XIV.
You are meeting during the Jubilee Year of Hope, which encourages the universal church, and indeed the entire world, to reflect on this essential virtue, which Pope Francis described as the desire and expectation of good things to come, despite our not knowing what the future may bring.
And for more, we turn to Katherine Jean Lopez, editor-at-large for National Review Online, who is attending the Supreme Convention. Katherine, great to have you back. The theme for this year is the Knights of Columbus as Pilgrims of Hope. What does that theme mean to you?
Well, I have to say, as obviously not a member of the Knights of Columbus, I'm a woman, and they're a fraternal organization, they give me tremendous hope. Because what the Knights of Columbus do is, they're men who want to be virtuous, who organize themselves around Christ and charity, and then they go from there. And so you go from, we have like pancake breakfasts where there's fellowship in a parish, to we fund ultrasound machines at the local pregnancy center, to there's a disaster in the homeland domestically, and the Knights of Columbus pick up and move in, to, and this is honestly so close to my heart and has been so such a grace for me to witness, their support of persecuted Christians in the world. When 10 years ago, when ISIS was attacking in Iraq and wanting to eliminate the Christians, the Knights of Columbus moved in. And not only did they move in, like you knew their money was going directly, no overhead. If you donated to their Christian persecution fund, it was all going directly. And I would be in the room. A good friend of mine was orchestrating this all for the Knights, and he would get a call from Bishop Warda in Erbil, and we need 17 desks and 3 beds, and that's what the Knights of Columbus were doing, building a future for the Iraqis. So there are Christians in Iraq today because of the Knights of Columbus.
Wow, some really great work, no doubt about it. What are some of the highlights of the Supreme Convention, and what are you most looking forward to?
Well, the Supreme Convention is a really quirky event. I'll tell you the truth. It's beautiful because even when I got to the hotel last night, like a woman will be first in the elevator. They're gentlemen. It's a nice change from sure. Maybe every day in Washington or on the East Coast. But in all seriousness, there's this great camaraderie. And you see every state having its own little sense of, I hate using the word pride because it's a deadly sin, but in the sense of we have something that we want to contribute to the world. It's, a sense of identity rather than pride. So anyway, the states, they kind of like get a little competitive like men do, and want to have the biggest cheers at the states dinner. And there's also a lovely, I've been a speaker at this in years past, Vanessa Kelly, Patrick's wife, the head of the Knights of Columbus, will have a ladies' lunch. And this year, Jeannie Mancini, who was most recently, the president of the March for Life, will be a speaker. And she's a beautiful speaker about, obviously, pro-life issues, but prayer. And she's just a beautiful woman of Christ.
Absolutely. Well, Katherine Jean Lopez, editor-at-large for National Review Online. Thank you. Love your perspective.
Thanks, Tara.
All right, up next on EWTN News Nightly, snow in August. Why white petals fell from the roof of the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome. Today is the anniversary of the dedication of the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome. It is also the Solemnity of Our Lady of the Snows. EWTN Vatican journalist Valentina Di Donato tells us more about this feast and its miracle at its origin.
As the Gloria was sung, rose petals cascaded from the ceiling of the Basilica of St. Mary Major, recreating what tradition tells us happened 17 centuries ago, a miracle that led to the construction of the first Marian shrine in the West.
It's just so special to be able to venerate Our Lady in a basilica dedicated to her, one that was also so important to Pope Francis, who's buried here. And so just to see that sacramental sign of the roses falling to symbolize the snow is a beautiful moment.
According to tradition, on August 4th in 358 AD, the Virgin Mary appeared in a dream to Pope Liberus and a Roman patrician, asking them to build a church. Against all odds, the Esquiline Hill was covered with snow the next morning at dawn. The miraculous event was taken as a sign to build the basilica on that very site. Every year, in the midst of the summer heat, the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major celebrates the anniversary of that miracle, attracting Romans, pilgrims, and tourists from all over the world.
As a pilgrim, I came here with this goal of going to the ceremonies and be united to the church, especially in this Mass, because it is a very important feast of our church, as the first church dedicated to Our Lady here. And because of that, I was very anxious to participate of this great feast.
During the Mass, Cardinal Rolandas Macricas, coadjutor archpriest of the Basilica of St. Mary Major, reminded the pilgrims that every year thousands of faithful are amazed and inspired by the snowfall of white rose petals. Today, we too are witnesses to that sign, emphasizing that snowfall can be a symbol of grace.
Century, the first one.
Recently, Cardinal Macricas spoke to EWTN on the other reason why the Basilica of St. Mary Major is attracting so many pilgrims.
Pope Francis was very attached to the devotion of Salus Populi Romani. He visited as a pope for 126 times. He stopped for the prayer, and after his death, so many people coming every day to see his tomb, to tell thanks for his legacy. The life of Basilica has changed because we have to meet so many pilgrims who wants to see Basilica, but now in special way to see the tomb of Pope Francis.
The celebration will continue in the evening with Vespers and a historical reenactment of the miracle of the snow. According to the City of Rome, this year's event is dedicated to the Supreme Pontiff Leo XIV, to the memory of Pope Francis, and to world peace. In Rome, Valentina Di Donato, EWTN News Nightly.
The Basilica of St. Mary Major also serves as a testament to Catholic orthodoxy. In the year 431, the Council of Ephesus in present-day Turkey met to resolve the question of Mary as Mother of God. Nestorius, the Bishop of Constantinople, taught that Mary was only the mother of Christ the man, not God. St. Cyril of Alexandria, known as the Doctor of the Incarnation, took issue with the teaching and fought back vehemently. He argued that Christ was God incarnate and in whom the found with the unity of God and man was in one person. Therefore, Mary could be called the Mother of God. The council agreed with him, and Pope Sixtus III named the Basilica St. Mary Major in order to help implement the teachings of the council. Well, we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tara Mergener. Good night and God bless.